just once by chance, saving a person in an accident on the road. The man did not expect that this could change the fate of the people of the town he was living in. This man's name is Gio Bonucci. He came to pick up his daughter Chiara, but encountered an unexpected incident. The teacher reported that Chiara had been picked up by Gio's colleague earlier. Gio immediately understood that it must be related to that case. He hurriedly ran home. When he pushed the door open and entered, he found Amina and Chiara were both at home. But in the living room there were two gangsters. Amina and Chiara were being held tightly by one of them. Gio said the police, Marco Quaranta, let go of the woman and the little girl. Then he rushed in and beat Gio up. He was the younger brother of mafia boss Vincent Quaranta. He was inhumane and aggressive, and he dared to do anything. He put a gun to Gio's daughter's head. Then Marco Quaranta warned Gio that this time was just a lesson. If there was a next time, he would definitely attack his daughter. Gio went to Enzo Arezio's clinic to help him treat his wound. Behind him, there was a man looking at him curiously. The man asked Dr. Gio what happened. Dr. Enzo Arezio said he fell. A few weeks later, when Gio's family was having dinner at the restaurant, the gangsters came again. It turned out that the last time was not simply to beat him up as a warning. Marco Quaranta had another purpose. He wanted to meet the Somalis to demand their ship and asked Gio if he could do it. The whole restaurant fell into silence. No one dared to say a word. Just as Marco Quaranta was gloating, a pair of murderous eyes were staring at him. Marco Quaranta felt a chill down his spine, but he still had to stand up to see who it was. After all, in this land, no one but his brother dared to touch him. He said he liked to meddle in other people's business. He said he tried not to interfere, but he was making things difficult for him. Marco Quaranta said he shouldn't meddle in other people's business. It wouldn't be good. He said God knew he was allergic to bad things. He told Marco Quaranta that if it were a few weeks ago, he wouldn't have meddled in other people's business. But now that he lived here, he liked this town and everyone here, and planned to live here forever. Marco Quaranta said he was warning him. He was giving him a chance to prepare. Asked the people around if they heard what he said. He was ready. He was so interesting. He suddenly said that was a Timex watch. After saying that, he twisted Marco Quaranta's hand. Seeing this, his men wanted to rush over fiercely, but he warned them to stay still. Marco Quaranta was restrained and had his median nerve pressed. If he continued to be pressed like this, he would probably pee his pants right there. At his request, two of Marco Quaranta's men were chased out. After that, he confiscated Marco Quaranta's gun, and he was like a docile little dog, kicked out of the restaurant. This movie is called The Equalizer 3. The longer the beginning, the more dramatic the end. Now back to the beginning of the story. The story began in Sicily, the home of the mafia. A boss was leading his nephew to his manor, but when he reached the gate of the mansion, their guards had long been defeated. Faced with this scene, not only the boss but also the nephew was unusually calm. The boss pulled out his gun and told his nephew to wait in the car. Standing in front of the gate was his brother. It turned out that the situation was under control. The two of them stepped inside, but the boss did not take his hand off the gun. The house was eerily silent, and the bodies of his underlings were lying everywhere. Even though they had defeated the opponent, the boss and the survivor still couldn't help but shiver. The boss took off his hat and walks down to the wine cellar. A man has a gun pointed at his head by his underlings, but he was still very calm and is wiping the ring on his hand. Now everyone was there. The man told the boss that because he took something he shouldn't have taken, he came to get it back. Then he started counting down. 9 seconds was the time for the boss to decide his fate. After pressing the countdown timer, he started to take down each of them without any extra movements or wasted seconds. When facing this kind of bad guy, the man was not merciful. He did not kill him immediately. He picked up the gun on the ground and pointed it at the boss's back. After a while of struggling, the boss finally stopped breathing. He was very experienced in dealing with this kind of guy. He took the boss's key and brought what he wanted. There was still his nephew in the car. The man reminded the boy to stay in the car and not move, then put the bag on his shoulder and left. Suddenly, there was a gunshot that startled him, but the kid opened fire. The man was hit but still let the boy go. He sat down on the cement floor. In this special profession, he had long taken life and death lightly. He would rather be injured or captured than that, so he decided to send himself to heaven without hesitation. But the gun spared him. The gun was out of bullets. Although seriously injured, he still tried to drive onto the ferry, but when he got to shore, he fainted on the road. Gio was discovered by a patrolling police officer. His blood pressure was very low, and he was not taken to the hospital in time. Enzo Arezio, the town doctor, gave him emergency treatment. After the man woke up, Enzo Arezio knew that Gio had saved the man's life, so Enzo Arezio wanted to know if Gio had saved a good person or a bad person. The man shook his head and said, "I don't know," and learned that the man's name was Robert McCall. A few days later, the wound gradually healed, and Robert McCall discovered discovered that, despite being treated here for so long, no one had touched his bag. A few days later, Robert McCall was able to walk with crutches. He walked down the steps to look at this beautiful town, but he still had to be vigilant and try to avoid the surveillance cameras. Robert McCall went to the restaurant, ordered a cup of coffee, and enjoyed the peaceful afternoon. At this time, the police officer Gio came to him. Gio said that Dr. Enzo Arrizio was a good man, and that even his parents were delivered by Dr. Enzo Arrizio. He didn't want anything to happen to the doctor, nor did he want anything to happen to anyone in this town. Gio did not want to investigate Robert McCall's background. He returned the car keys to him and said the car was at the police station. Gio told Robert McCall to come get it when he was well. He just hoped Robert McCall would not bring disaster to this town. In the CIA headquarters, Agent Emma Collins received a phone call. There was something they were looking for in that winery and wanted Emma Collins to personally lead the person there. Through the conversation with this enthusiastic local, Emma Collins realized that the other party was not an ordinary person. Day by day, Robert McCall gradually fell in love with this place. The climate was mild and the people were friendly. It seemed that he had thought about spending his old age here. But one day, Robert McCall discovered that this beautiful town also had bugs. A gang of gangsters were standing outside the fish shop collecting protection money. Robert McCall tried to control himself. Inside, they started to beat him up non-stop. Without money, he could only take the beating. Finally, the mafia left. The fish shop owner calmly walked out. The owner reassured his wife that he was fine and continued to do business with a smile. Marco Quaranta continued to threaten and remind the boss to pay the protection money next week. Even though the fish shop owner did not pay, they still collected quite a bit. They got on their motorbikes and left arrogantly. The townspeople were afraid of them, but Robert McCall was different. These evil men were on Robert McCall's death list. Marco Quaranta dared to be so arrogant because his brother Vincent Quaranta was the boss of one of the 5 big families. They planned to take over this town and open a resort, hotel, and casino. At this time, Vincent Quaranta was discussing the sale. He wanted to buy this building to open a hotel. The landlord naturally did not agree. Vincent Quaranta did not say much and stood up and left. The boss went downstairs. He had to earn big money. He didn't mind small money. He accepted the protection money that his younger brother had just collected. Then the landlord's disabled father was thrown onto the street by the ruthless mafia. They left the old man there for everyone to see. They were so inhumane, truly a bunch of barbarians. Robert McCall and Enzo Arrizio talked every day. Robert McCall and Enzo Arrizio were like soulmates. There were so many things to talk about. At the market, Robert McCall intended to buy 2 fish to enjoy with Enzo Arrizio, but the boss refused to take the money just because Robert McCall was Enzo Arrizio's friend. No matter what Robert McCall said, the boss said that he would definitely take it next time, but this time he had to listen to him. Robert McCall politely accepted this kindness. The CIA and the international police came to the winery. Each bottle of wine had cash hidden in the safe, a total of more than $10 million US. The surveillance camera was turned off at the same time. In addition to the corpse, there was also a fingerprint at the scene. It was not difficult to guess that this was caused by one person. Through the analysis of the scene, it was a group of Syrians. They smuggled drugs here, repackaged them, and transported them back to their country, so it would not be international shipping. The superior told Emma Collins that this case must be investigated clearly. Robert McCall's injuries were almost completely healed, but he had a question about why he was brought here. Enzo Arrizio did not call an ambulance or call the police. Enzo Arrizio told him, "Do you remember what Enzo Arrizio asked you?" When Enzo Arrizio first arrived, Robert McCall said Enzo Arrizio asked him if he was a good person or a bad person, and he said he didn't know. Enzo Arrizio said the words "I don't know" are only said by good people. One night, the boss's fish shop was set on fire. It was definitely done on purpose. The boss screamed in pain. It was all the property of the boss and his wife. It was the shop that they had put all their heart and soul into building. Robert McCall knew that it must have been set on fire by those thugs. He turned around and saw them from afar. He was allergic to evil things. This time, Robert McCall did not do anything, but helped the town's fish shop owner clean up with the people. That day, Robert McCall was drinking tea when Emma Collins appeared beside him. Robert McCall told Emma Collins that he could turn away if she wanted to take a better photo, so Emma Collins was discovered. Emma Collins had a hunch that the person who had taken down the gang at the winery was the Robert McCall in front of her. Moreover, he could also call the organization's internal line. This uncle was most likely one of their people. After that conversation, Emma Collins was more than convinced that he was definitely not just an enthusiastic citizen calling to report news. Gio reviewed the surveillance camera footage before the fire. He found a black truck, and this was the cause of the incident at the beginning of the video. Gio went to pick up his child from school. Chiara was kidnapped, and when he got home, he was beaten to a pulp by Marco Quaranta. After being bandaged by Enzo Arizio, 3 weeks later, the incident at the restaurant happened. Marco Quaranta was restrained and kicked out like a dog as the younger brother of a mafia boss. How could this end? Leaving the restaurant, Marco Quaranta told his men to get the car. To save his honor, he had to get rid of Robert McCall immediately. At this moment, his car rushed in at high speed, not only killing one of his men, but also killing the driver in the car. Marco Quaranta's mind was full of question marks. Next, Robert McCall appeared with a bottle of wine in his hand. Marco Quaranta quickly pulled out a knife, and Robert McCall smiled. Without any extra movement, he quickly took down Marco Quaranta in the blink of an eye. Bullying the weak and bullying the townspeople must pay the price. Robert McCall looked at Marco Quaranta, watching him die without blinking. This is the end of the evil. The police arrived at the scene and found drugs in the car. Now almost the whole town knows who killed Marco Quaranta and his gang. Emma Collins received a call from her superior. The bomb explosion at the train station was a terrorist attack, and the sponsor of this terrorist attack was the drug traffickers. Based on Robert McCall's information, Emma Collins reported to her superior the reason why a large amount of drugs were discovered in Sicily. There was only one possibility, that the mafia wanted to take over this place. Because Naples is the most convenient port for trade. The drug traffickers here are so rampant, they must have backers. They went to the police chief to ask to interrogate some people. The police chief filtered the list because there were people that the CIA was not allowed to interrogate. This was Emma Collins's real purpose. She wanted to see the people the sheriff had eliminated from the list. Emma Collins said she wasn't here to negotiate, but to give him a chance. Based on information from the drug dealers, the task force found a base. They opened fire without hesitation. The rest, almost all, laid down their arms and surrendered. The police chief learned of this and immediately went to the Camorra Mafia base. The atmosphere here was extremely stifling. Vincent Quaranta was holding a funeral for his younger brother. The police chief came to warn that the CIA had arrived. A very intelligent woman was about to investigate the Camorra. He asked Vincent Quaranta to stop everything. But at this moment, Vincent Quaranta was immersed in grief. He told the police chief to do his job well, making sure no one would find out. As for the other woman, he would handle it himself. The police chief talked for a long time, but Vincent Quaranta didn't listen to a word. And about his younger brother's death, there was still no answer. He said, "Are you an idiot, or have you forgotten your position?" The police chief said his position was police chief, but did he forget who he was? A barbarian. He will forever be a barbarian. The sheriff had already warned him. The sheriff was about to leave when he was restrained by the boss's underlings. A knife stabbed through his palm, and this knife was just to fix it. The underlings pulled out a sharp knife and ruthlessly cut off the sheriff's hand. Because of his brother's tragic death, the boss was now very angry. He put his hand in the box and let the sheriff hold it, politely put the sheriff in the car, and then warned him. Do you understand what he meant? Next time he will cut off your head and send it to your nephew, then thank you for helping in this matter. Stefano Barrera, police chief. Stefano Barrera was attacked. Emma Collins was about to go to the hospital when she received a phone call that she had come to the wrong place. Robert McCall was not a terrorist, but Camorra. Be careful, I will call you back later. Then she went to the parking lot when suddenly there was an explosion that blew her away. She was immediately taken to the hospital. She told her colleagues what Robert McCall said. The target they were looking for was not a terrorist, but the Camorra Mafia gang. At the same time, a luxurious convoy entered the beautiful town. Vincent Quaranta kidnapped Gio's family and planned to strike first to show his power. His younger brother Marco Quaranta was killed on the street. He demanded that the townspeople hand over the murderer, otherwise he would kill Gio's entire family. Vincent Quaranta fired 2 shots at Gio. He said this was just a warning. The next shot would not be just his hand. Suddenly, there was a loud shout saying that the person he was looking for was here. The person who killed his younger brother. Robert McCall said he had told him to spare these people, but he did not listen. At the crucial moment, Robert McCall appeared with 2 guns in his hands. Because of these people, Robert McCall began to understand what peace was. Robert McCall loved this place, so he did not allow anyone in town to be hurt. He wanted Vincent Quaranta to take him away and not cause trouble here. Robert McCall had already disregarded life and death and put his gun on the ground, but Vincent Quaranta decided that this was the most suitable place because he could still warn everyone, and he raised his gun. At this moment, the respected Dr. Enzo Arizio took the lead and fired the first shot, ready to fight to the end with the Camorra gang. Next, everyone took out their phones and pointed the camera at Vincent Quaranta. The townspeople united together. Faced with this situation, coupled with the fact that the police were about to arrive, Vincent Quaranta did not dare dare to act rashly. He spoke viciously, saying that he would turn this place into a battlefield and then left. As long as they were united, there was no difficulty that could not be overcome. Returning to the base in Naples, Vincent Quaranta vowed to kill the American and flatten the town of Altamonte, but they had no idea that this was their last supper. The sky over the town was covered with dark clouds. A rain of blood was about to fall. In the quiet of the night, the alarm bell of Vincent Quaranta's villa rang. The gatekeeper went out to check. There was nothing unusual. He lit a cigarette. It was Robert McCall. He did not want to sit still and watch the town being destroyed. So, he decided to take the initiative to attack. The three underlings were playing cards when suddenly the villa had a power outage. One of them went out to check and made sure there was nothing wrong. Then he was shot in the head. Robert McCall quietly entered the villa step by step. The security system of this lair was indeed very good. One of them constantly monitored the surveillance camera. It seemed that the bad guys had to live in fear every day. And after this night, that man did not need to be so tired anymore. One of them discovered his accomplice, but before he could scream, he was strangled with a rope. He struggled on the floor in silence. Blood dripping from the ceiling woke up Vincent Quaranta, who was sleeping soundly. He looked around on the bed, which was covered in blood. Vincent Quaranta turned his head and saw blood dripping from the ceiling. Next, a person fell from upstairs, the rope tied to his leg hanging from the ceiling. Vincent Quaranta was stunned because the dead person was his right-hand man. He quickly took out his gun and called out to the other underlings, but unfortunately no one answered. Vincent Quaranta went out to the living room, horrified to see that all the bodyguards had been killed. He was extremely scared because in the past 15 years of being a bad guy, he had never witnessed such a horrible scene. Vincent Quaranta was confused and shot randomly everywhere. As soon as he ran out of bullets, he was knocked unconscious from behind by Robert McCall, tied to a pillar, and his stomach was stuffed with the drugs he sold. Before the drugs stopped Vincent Quaranta's heart, he had 6 minutes. Vincent Quaranta had become a cripple. Robert McCall untied him. Vincent Quaranta wanted to escape because to him, Robert McCall in front of him was like the god of death punishing the crimes he had committed. From the living room, he walked to the stairs. The stairs were the exit from the villa. He walked from the first floor out of the villa. The ground was soaked with rain. Staggering to the main gate with his weak body, he pushed open the door that he had never opened himself. He walked on the streets of Naples. Robert McCall followed closely behind. And then, a heinous crime boss no longer had any arrogant spirit. He groped for a few more 10 meters. Then Vincent Quaranta collapsed next to a fruit stand. At the same time the people of Altamonte gathered for a memorial service, Vincent Quaranta died on the streets of Naples. After the rain, the sky cleared up. The CIA and Interpol seized a large amount of drugs. They overthrew the local Camorra leadership, cutting off the terrorist organization's funding. And their boss, Vincent Quaranta, died tragically on the streets of Naples last night due to an overdose of the drugs he sold. Robert McCall visited Emma Collins. He told her the truth. It turned out that he came here to help a retired old man named Dale track down the $366,400, which was the pension money stolen by hackers. So he followed the trail to a farm in Sicily, but accidentally discovered drugs and more than $10 million in dirty money. He only took Dale's pension money from that cash and then retreated safely. What Emma Collins didn't understand was that Robert McCall and Dale didn't know each other. Was he Robert McCall's friend? Robert McCall said it was not just a one-time ride. Emma Collins did not understand. Robert McCall said Emma Collins would understand. Just because of one meeting, he followed the murder trail all the way here. Robert McCall was the judge of the Equalizer. When he left, Robert McCall left a bag for Emma Collins. Inside was Dale's retirement money. A few days later, at Dale's house in Boston, USA, looking at the pension money that had been recovered, the old man emotionally told his wife that she could take out the things that had been packed. Now they didn't need to sell the house and move away. Seeing Robert McCall and Enzo Aricio hugging and crying emotionally, Emma Collins felt extremely comforted. Back at the CIA, Emma Collins received an email. Inside was a note and a notebook. On the paper it was written that her mother would be proud of her. The notebook was a relic of Emma Collins's mother. After reading the content inside, Emma Collins finally knew who Robert McCall was. The town of Altamonte had returned to its former state. Robert McCall was rejoicing with the people. They were celebrating the team's victory. From now on, Robert McCall would live here. The movie ended here. The Equalizer 3 was a thrilling drama. The longer it was in the beginning, the more refreshing it was when he took revenge. Above is the entire content of the movie. Thank you everyone for watching. Goodbye and see you again.